You talk a lot about homelessness in your book, and I found that really fascinating. And one of the things you mentioned is that there's a freedom in being homeless.
Yeah.
Talk about that. I
Well,
find that
it's an interesting freedom, but
yeah,
it's like I'm free, but I'm sinking. But you don't know you're sinking because you think what it is you have no responsibilities. But one thing was that I noticed that when I was homeless, the thing that was interesting, and this is a great question, not many have asked me this, you caught it in the book, is that you're on the edge. Like you don't know what's coming next. Food, shelter, could be murder, you could be overdosing, and you don't care. But what it taught me, it was like, ironically, it did teach me to trust in a way that I have nothing to lose, so just do the next thing. And I was doing it in a self-destructive way. But when I shifted it into constructiveness, I used the same freedom and things really flowed. I mean, I went from 2 years being homeless to within a week had a full-time job once I made the decision.
Mark Charters is an extraordinary person and a fascinating man. He's faced drug and alcohol addiction and was even homeless for a period. But what is perhaps most remarkable are Mark's psychic abilities. Between the wisdom gained from his life experiences and his connection to a greater power, Mark has insight that can benefit all of us. Please welcome him to Bump in the Road. Mark, welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, tell us your story.
Yes, thank you for having me, Pat. It's a pleasure to be here. I've really enjoyed and look forward to this. Well, as you know, I go by Mark Charters, medium life coach. I'm a psychic medium, and I have a book out called "Become the Light Again." It's a journey of love, loss, and finding the light again. My major belief is that our worst struggles, our worst tragedies can turn out to be our best gifts in order to learn and live our life more meaningful. And in my life, when I look back, I started out in a family of six. I was the middle person, and I was born psychic. I didn't know I was, and I went through quite a lot to get to the point of accepting being a psychic medium. My mom was psychic, her mom was psychic. My dad was a cardiologist, taught at Yale, didn't want to know anything about it. Italian Catholic in the 60s wasn't something really honoring psychic mediumship. It's kind of funny now, but within that journey, went through a lot of different tragedies and trauma. Losing grandparents, losing a daughter, being an alcoholic and addict myself in recovery, homeless junkie, suicide, overdose, to the point of where someone was about to shoot me. And it was at that moment that Spirit brought in a gift, an insight, and I got a vision of my whole future. And it was then I started to make changes. And so I took that step by step. It was not easy. It wasn't something that came instantly, but the vision came instantly. And I changed my life. I went from living homeless, suicides, overdose, to getting a job, to following my mission. And even in that mission is when my daughter died. And then I had an artery rupture. I was given my last rites. My wife almost died. My dad died. Like, it just kept going. But I took all those tragedies and I kept believing that all of these have meaning for me and are lessons to really go deeper. And the biggest thing I teach others, and I try to learn more and more daily about myself, is that we have two choices in life, really just two, is to take action or freeze and become victim. And they're both legitimate choices, and we all do both, I think. But there's a point where the victim part, we have to take responsibility and say, where is it in myself that I can take meaning from this in action and find a mission out of it? And so throughout my life, through the examples of when my daughter died, I held her dead in my arms. I could have given up then, and I almost did. It was really tough. I was 2 years sober. My wife almost died in front of me. But something spiritual came in me and saw the beauty of death. It was painful, but also it was the closest thing between heaven and earth, was to hold someone that was gone, but was also so beautiful. So I took those two things of beauty and death, or loss and hope, or hope and faith, and I kind of applied them to my everyday life. So that led me all the way up to becoming a massage therapist. I went to school right after my surgery when I had the artery rupture from the stress of my daughter's life. That day I got accepted into massage school. So I changed my life again, and I quit all my work. I went to school for massage therapy and developed myself and became a therapist working in LA, New York, working with media people, movie stars, executives, and everyday people. But it was another moment to move forward. I did that for 20 years and was doing 50 massages a week. 60 was, I was really doing well. And then COVID hit, and whammo, and one day my whole business died.
Oh,
And so
man.
I had to listen again and say, do I play victim and fight this, or what does spirit want? And my daughter came in and said, it's time to write the book. So in 3 months, I wrote Become the Light Again. And
Really?
also, I went public that I'm a psychic medium. And within 6 months, I was in 10 countries doing Zoom. I hated Zoom. I hated computers. But like all of us, we have to adapt to technology. You understand? And so I just went with it. And the book got written. It took 2 years to edit, but my business grew. I met some really neat people in LA and New York that helped me with the book and in marketing and getting myself to another level. And what I did was I didn't play victim. Yeah, I got mad and was sad that my other business left, but I looked at it, it was time. And I look back now, it's been, I think, what, maybe 4 or 5 years now. And my business has tripled in that amount of time. I'm on a second book. I've been doing many shows like yours, but what it is it brought me to the moment. So I took all of this and I teach people how to live their lives. It doesn't mean my life is really good. Even 3, 4 years ago, my best friend, my brother died, dropped dead instantly. My mom died all in the same year. Again, I had to keep moving forward, feeling it. And then we buried him on my birthday. It was like, that's how intense it was.
Mm.
So spirit brings up things, and I've learned now to just receive them, feel them, grieve them, take action on it. Doesn't mean I don't resist and fight. I'm human. I have a ego that's stubborn sometimes. But I try to move forward, and I am really transparent with all my clients and share them with my struggles. I have strong boundaries, but I'm transparent. And I think that message is what my story is about, that we all struggle. We all go through hell in life, but it's what makes us come together and human and be people that we can appreciate each other. And so that's kind of a lot of what I talk about in my book. So that's basically my story, if that makes sense to you.
Oh, your story is incredible. I have so many questions about it, but you were just talking about moving forward. What are some of the keys to moving forward? Because we all get stuck, and it's hard to move forward sometimes.
Yes. Um, a lot of it is what I found is when we decide to become a victim, and we all have to be victims, I think, to some extent, and grieve the loss of what we lost or where we're stuck, whether it's a career, whether it's a relationship, whether if it's a loss of a child, a loved one, a sibling, that we sit frozen for a while. But all we have to do, and what I've done and learned and teach others, is take very small steps. It can't be like, I'm going to just change my life, but it might be just saying, all right, today I'm going to clean up the dishes and go for a walk and think of one good thing that I like, or take out old photos of my daughter and cry for an hour and then eat something, take something that I like to eat, or be nice to myself, or call a friend. It's not major change at once. It's very small steps. And I find when we embrace that, it's love, it's unconditional love. And when that love opens up again, it allows for miracles to happen. And I think you've read in the book amazing things that have happened with me that have guided me to become who I am. So it's really just making small steps is what I teach people.
And it sounds like you accompany it with a lot of self-care.
Yes. And that, being an addict and alcoholic, was the last thing on my list for me. But like this morning, I got up, I went and did a steam bath, I did some exercise, and I came to work. I try to do that every morning. And I sit and have coffee with my wife. We go over things just for the day. I make sure that each day has really meaning to me. It doesn't mean I don't wake up late sometimes and rush off, or things happen like with the computer or when I'm on a show. But I just realized, like, it's all, I think that the other big point of this is that we're not in control of our lives. We're in control of trusting that someone else or something higher than us loves us enough to move us forward. And even our loved ones that have passed want us to be happy on the earth plane.
Now, it's interesting you bring up trust. That is a topic that comes up periodically. And
Yeah.
Mary Neal, who had a near-death experience, said that with her experience, she moved from hope to trust.
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
has always stuck with me. It's so powerful. And you're talking about trust again.
Yes. And what's interesting, I had a client come in the other day. I've known this client for many years, a woman, and it was really hurt by her dad in every way possible, physical, emotional, everything. She fought with me for 3 years. Like, I would channel and then yell at me after. And I knew overall that she was just working out things about her dad. I was about her dad's age. I was the same Italian. And Spirit brought this in. I saw it coming. And I just loved her. I don't mean romantically. I just loved
Yeah.
her and said, thank you for sharing your anger. I appreciate it. Now she's like a daughter to me. She's friends with my wife. She's trusting again. She's starting to get in relationships. She texts and say hi. And so I, because I allowed her to be her, she started trusting again. Not that I allowed her. I could have said, I don't want to deal with her and shut her out
Hmm.
and not take that, but I didn't take it personal. I looked at it as a higher thing going on here. And I think in all of our relationships, whether we're married and we're divorcing, that we can go two angles, be bitter and victim and attack, or trust the process, even if we get hurt, that there's an outcome that is better for us.
I think that's very true. I think it's very hard to move through these things sometimes, but it is amazing if you put one foot in front of the other, the things that can unfold, things you would never expect.
Yes. And it's as simple as the one foot. And you don't have to, I think what happens with all of us, we're looking at the end product we want. And so we don't think we can get that. But if we just do the next thing, all of a sudden something happens. Like, I never thought I'd be doing shows like this when I couldn't even write a book. I didn't learn to read until my freshman year in high school. I couldn't read or write. My writing was really bad. I just had really sick as a kid, and the encephalitis really affected the way I write and read. But now I'm writing, like I'm reading, and like, but I took little steps in writing that book. Just said, okay, I'm going to write 1,000 words a day, not think of anything else. And all of a sudden, in 3 months, I had 60,000 words. I ended up writing more than 1,000, but it was a little step of just sitting there, open the computer, and just write. And that was in writing in that sense. But it's happened in every aspect. When I was homeless, just get up, take a shower, get a coffee, and go do something positive. And I went to a meeting, and I'd walk in and get a job instantly. Things like that would happen that I never thought would, you know?
You talk a lot about homelessness in your book, and I found that really fascinating. And one of the things you mentioned is that there's a freedom in being homeless.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Well, it's an interesting freedom, but
Yeah.
it's like I'm free, but I'm sinking. But you don't know you're sinking because you think what it is you have no responsibilities. But one thing was that I noticed that when I was homeless, the thing that was interesting, and this is a great question, not many have asked me this, you caught it in the book, is that you're on the edge. Like you don't know what's coming next. Food, shelter, could be murder, you could be overdosing, and you don't care. But what it taught me, it was like, ironically, it did teach me to trust in a way that I have nothing to lose, so just do the next thing. And I was doing it in a self-destructive way. But when I shifted it into constructiveness, I used the same freedom and things really flowed. I mean, I went from 2 years being homeless to within a week had a full-time job once I made the decision. I walked into a Catholic Family Services, homeless, same clothes for 3 years. And as I'm walking in, the phone rings, and there's a Jewish man that called the Catholic Family Services, and he goes, "Do you ever have any homeless people looking for work?" And I got the job. And the lady who was there just looked at me oddly and gave me the phone. So that's what I mean. Like, if I never took a simple step and trusted, like, see, we fear that we'll get rejected or lose something. But that's the gift, is that if we trust that whatever we lose or goes wrong, they're actually lessons to make us stronger. Do you understand? And I think the freedom I talked about with the homeless, it made me stronger somewhere. Do you understand?
Yeah, no, interestingly, I spent 7 years homeless. Not homeless like you were, but just
Yeah,
traveling homeless.
yeah,
And it was something I needed at that point in time. It gave me space for a lot of reflection. It gave me new adventures. I just had to be present and see what unfolded. It was really
yeah,
pretty it was really pretty magical in some ways.
yeah, yeah. And it's a powerful thing. And I had two forms of travel. One was I was homeless, but then there was a point before that I had hitchhiked 36,000 miles, with a backpack and
Mhm.
living in different areas and stuff. So I've had two forms of the traveler, but then also the self-destructive homeless traveler. There were two aspects. I don't really define it much in the book, but there were two aspects, and I could relate to what you share about that. The adventures and the funny things that happen, and it makes you more of a well-rounded person, I think. Unless you get so far off where you just travel the rest of your life and you lose groundedness and you're caught up in just not finding a purpose but traveling. That's another angle of it.
Yeah, traveler is such a good word for that too. It
Yeah,
just has this connotation of mystery, grounded, exploration, new skills that can come out of all that.
yes, it does. And I think um, adaptability. is one of them.
Yes, big time. And also, I think that in this very materialistic world where we live, you are in a very unmaterialistic state as you're traveling. And I
Yes.
think that not being encumbered by stuff has a can have deeper meanings. And I think it makes you really look at things anew. And it's an opportunity. Every time you show up, you present yourself. You're
Yes.
presenting yourself without a card, without a title, without things. What are you presenting?
Yeah, just you. And that's powerful. And I think even when you experience that, when you become material again, we all would like a home to live in and have a car
Mhm.
to drive around. And that what I've learned is I do these purges every maybe 6 months. I'm like, what do I really use? And what I don't, I get rid of. I'm also a collector. I collect antiques and vintage things. But even that, I'll get to a point where what is valuable to me and what isn't. And then I'll sell something off or let it go or things like that. And what I've found, the lighter I am, the more that flows through me. That's just my nature. I don't know if that's human nature or whatever, but it works really well for me. And
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the more you can simplify your life and let go of things, like one of the things that I do that makes my life simpler is I wear the same thing for the podcast every time. I wear a
ah,
black top and my trusty scarf with the bump colors on it. And it's just wonderful not to have to think. You just know what you're going to do. And that is so simple, but
yes.
it's an example of how much easier your life can flow when you bring simplicity into other things.
Yes, yes. And it's actually simplicity and structure. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of like what I found when I teach people is that when we're hurt by authority, whether it's our parents, whether it's someone older, whether it's an institution, we want to buck authority, like think it's wrong or structure. Do you understand?
Oh,
But what I
I get
find
that one.
But what I find in the higher realm is structure is a beautiful gift. The structure for me, and I think for a lot of clients, is that when you do it from love and consistency, you can actually move into more freedom. But the more we rebel against it and get unstructured, and I don't mean unstructured, I don't mean like you're so structured that you're in a jail. I mean that like every day I get up and I meditate and I pray. I make it a structure, and it allows me to channel things from the other side. But I put my keys in a certain place. It frees me up from thinking so that I can exist in a very flowing way. Do you understand?
Very much it's about being present as opposed to being preoccupied and not present.
Yes, yes. That's a good point. It's being present in everything I do, but in that presence, for me, I love structure. I rebelled against it completely for many years, but I realized I'm really structured. I know everything about my business in one day. I know how to store my food for baking. I bake amazing pastries and structure. I design my studio. I'm moving my studio and I have it already half moved by just planning it. But it's not out of fear or anger or resentment or control. It's out of love of having, when I have things in place, it allows me more time to be spiritual in my sense for me. I don't know if
Well,
I'm clear on that, but
oh no, it makes total sense. When did you move from being kind of having authority issues to embracing the structure? What caused you to move?
well, I think consciously I got divorced when I was 50. I'm 64 now. I'm remarried for 12 years. But when I was 50, I saw in that old marriage how I was fighting a lot. Even though I had grown tremendously, we had lost a daughter together. We had been both through really illnesses. I developed my work and my business, but I was still fighting some, really what it was. the teenager, I never accepted the teenager in me until I was 50. And the teenager, I finally said, just my dad was really structured. He was a cardiologist, taught at Yale,
Yeah.
ran a hospital, very organized, but a lot of rage and anger in him too. He's a beautiful man, but and I said, well, if I'm that way, and I was the most like him, and at 50, I was like, what if I just try to embrace that side of me? And when I did, everything changed. Everything. I was like, wow, like it's all right to be like him, but I don't have to be the angered rage person. I was rebelling against him, but being him. Do you understand? And when I accepted the parts of me of him and became structured, I became so free and I transcended having his skills in a certain way, but having the love and the unconditional love that brought me to a whole nother level. But I would not have done it without the structure. I did theater, dance, movement. I did yoga. I dieted. I changed my life in 2 years. But I came very structured. And that's when I met my wife. And she said, I've never met someone so organized. My other wife couldn't even figure it out. She was like, what happened to you? So, and I'm not talking bad about my ex. It's just, that's the shift that I think with all of us, when we're really struggling, there's something in our teenage years when we're trying to leave family. We either get organized and flow into what God wants us to be, something or spirit, or we unconsciously rebel and fight and marry someone that's like family, or do something that we don't like because it was what family wanted. But usually when we go through a crisis, we start looking at it again. And a teenager, I don't know if you're a mom or not, but with a lot of teenagers, that's the time where anything goes and you're trying all new things. But you have to have the parent allow for some structure so they can do that. I think that's a big struggle nowadays, is structure's been thrown out and kids have lost their foundation a little and don't know where to go. And I don't mean that, I'm just saying in general. I'm not pointing fingers or anything like that. But does that make sense to you, what I'm
No, it
sharing?
makes total sense. I think you need structure in order to have freedom. I totally agree with you. But what part of what you're saying would seem to point to the idea of generational trauma. Your father was full of rage and angry for whatever reasons,
Yeah,
and we adopt these attitudes of our parents without understanding it.
yeah. And what I think with him, he was a very sensitive man. I mean, very talented. I mean, he got drafted by the Brooklyn Dodgers. He turned it down to
Oh,
become a cardiologist. And, but we had 6 kids. My mom got really sick. He had a lot on his plate. But he came from, and my grandfather was my mentor. But they had Italian rage. I call it Italian rage, but explosive. Do you understand? But if you met them as a public, like if you met my dad, you'd be like, he's an amazing guy. He gave to the community, was one of the well-known doctors in the area. But at home, and a home represents him, he couldn't embrace something about him. He was perfectionist. And it hurt my mom, it hurt the family. And he never came to that. He had died of cancer at a young age of 50, I think it was, or 58. So he never really embraced it. It humbled him to see what he had done. But but he took that from his family. And I think it's generational trauma. And I think the teenager is the one that we make a choice. Do we want to continue that or freedom? In whatever that freedom is, in the sense of how we love ourselves and treat ourselves and others. And a lot of those traumas are our gifts to work on to move forward. But it doesn't happen for some of us till we're in our 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, you know?
I think for the majority of people, it doesn't happen until later in life. I mean, I always say we spend the first half of our lives getting all this crap and all these expectations piled
Yeah.
upon us. And then if we're lucky, we get to spend the second half of our life peeling them back.
Yeah. I luckily did 50. Now I have 50 more years enjoying my life. I mean, I enjoyed it. Doesn't mean like my rebellion and all that. Really, what it was, I just found the room in myself where I can love me and not fight me anymore. It's a battle, and we all are in it. We either hate ourselves or like ourselves.
Well, and I think we live in such a dualistic world. We have to know hate to know love. We have to know hot to know cold. We have to experience a spectrum of things to figure out where it is we sit.
Yes, you're right about that. And I think back of everything I destroyed about me. But if I didn't destroy them, I wouldn't be who I am today. So, like, I was the opportunity, I was working with the top pastry chefs at Disney World. Top, like, baking for 100,000 people a day. I ran the bakery for Vail Ski Resort. I've done a lot of different things. And then I just dropped it. I left it. But it wasn't my path. Now I use it through the love of my daughter that comes through in the morning, and I bake things and I ship them all over the world to clients. But it's for love. I don't charge or I don't work hard at it. But I left something in order to gain something. But at the time it looked awful. I kept sabotaging things. But if I didn't sabotage, I would never be the psychic medium life coach that has experience with that to understand and love other people who think they're doing the wrong thing. Do you understand?
Talk a little bit about being psychic and how it's changed your life and your relationship with people.
Okay. Well, what it really has done is trust. It's brought, again, trusting in me, meaning not just me, but that, like, I think the biggest thing it's done is to trust that my words and feelings and insights are valuable because I can bring it from such a higher level. And when I was young, I was psychic and I would see things like with my family or friends, and I didn't like myself, so I thought it was wrong. And I shut it down and numbed everything out. And once I accepted it, I think what it's done is it's knowing that we really aren't in control of our lives. Like someone else is running everything. And when I channel, I see that more and more, even in my life, like how things happen. Like if I didn't go for the pre-op yesterday, I wouldn't have found out the other news. I would have never even known it. And that's a gift. And same with, I'll be driving and I just turn left and I show up at the place I'm supposed to be at. I think the biggest thing it's done, it's allowed me to realize I can't say anything wrong. I know that sounds odd, but like if I'm channeling you and you get really upset at me, I'm like, I'm not doing it from a critical point of view. I'm just sharing what I hear. Where before, as a kid and teenager, I'd share what I feel and hear, and I get shut down. And so I said no more. So how psychic has helped me is it's transformed me into trusting that if I have an intuitive thought and feeling about someone, only if they ask me, I'll share something. If they don't like it, that's the work they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually either they won't listen and leave or they listen and move forward. But it happens with me too. I'll listen to something about me and I'll say, no way. And then a week later it comes right back in my face. And then I have to listen. just because I'm psychic doesn't mean I make the best decisions. But even in those decisions that seem like they screwed up things, I've learned so much. I don't know if it's clear enough what I'm sharing about being psychic and how it has run my life, but it really has allowed me to trust that if I get out of my own way, that our life is perfect, no matter how rough and bad and ugly it is at the moment. It's what we're meant to be going through.
Being psychic for you, is
Yeah.
it a sense of strong intuition? Is it a sense of actual guidance, perhaps that you're giving somebody else? How does being psychic actually manifest for you?
Well, it manifests in me in quite a lot of different ways. But the biggest thing that does it is just being present in the moment. Presence in the moment is when the doors open. I have many senses. I went to a really internationally known psychic, and she goes, I haven't met anyone that has every sense that works in your psychic mediums. I smell things, I taste things, I see things, I vision things, I hear things, and my body feels things. I get people that enter my body. I taste cocaine on someone who's overdosed. My nose will run and I'll actually taste it. And it's really wild. And so I can experience it, but it could be simple. I'll just look at you and say, I get cheeseburgers from your mom from this place called Tony's. And you're like, oh my God, that's her favorite place. And we go, it can happen in the most simple way where you wouldn't think it's much, or it could be someone shows up physically next to you. That's someone that died many years ago and is coming through and shows you. So it comes out in different ways and things like that. So it has a variety of ways it comes through for me. And I was trying to explain that in all the different senses.
When should somebody seek out a psychic?
Uh, when
Yeah.
I would say that's a good question. I would say immediately. But with that, what I've always taught my clients is if you go to a psychic and they come across as being important in thinking they know more than you or trying to get something from you, walk away. What I tell my clients is that I'm here for you. I know you pay me, but I'm just channeling. It's not about me. I'm not the person. I'm just channeling through me. Yes, I sense things and stuff like that. But a good time to go is when you lost someone, but when you're going through struggles with career, through changes, really if you're feeling really stuck and maybe traditional therapy isn't working, or you just feel like you need to trust something bigger than yourself. And it's I get people from all walks of life referred by psychiatrists, by therapists, by religious people. Like mine is across the spectrum, but they come for anything. Some come for their pet that's died or is sick. Some come from a job that they just got fired from. Some come from their son just overdosed or killed themselves, or from a sibling or a husband that died. It's across the board for me.
And what advice would you give people who are in that period of human flux and change and they don't know what to do?
Trust.
That is so
Trust.
powerful.
Trust even who's being presented to you. Like sometimes I look back, and when my daughter died, there was this one moment I was like, what do I do? And then someone showed up and I pushed them away. And I look back now and I realize that person could have helped me at the moment. And what it is Sometimes we think we're abandoned when we go through really tough times, that God or family or mother or love, something higher in us, is abandoning us, which is the opposite. They're probably really close to us, but we've abandoned ourselves and we've stopped trusting in life. And so what I share with people is that if you can trust, and even if like it's a divorce and a woman trusts or a man trusts to get in a relationship and the same thing happens, they see the same triggers from the old marriage to the new relation, that's not a bad thing. It's to have you face it and work on it more and say no faster and say, I need something better, and then move on. Do you see what I mean? It's trusting that everything given to us is for a reason.
Yeah, you have obviously a very spiritual perspective on things. And it gives you a great deal of consciousness, actually. How do you think people can develop better consciousness? Because I think many people go through life repeating the same thing again and again, and they are
Yeah.
utterly unconscious.
Um, I did that for many, many years. And I think there are two things that come up with it. One is fear in being a victim. Fear makes us stay frozen and stays in something we think is comfortable. Even if it's an abusive marriage, the fear keeps us in it because it's comfortable. It's something we experienced young. And we don't believe in ourselves that we can have a higher consciousness to attract someone that really loves us. Again, it comes down to the victim part of trusting that if we take small steps and trust that our consciousness will increase. Consciousness just doesn't come from us meditating and making everything really comfortable around us. I think, in what I felt in my own experience, it comes from when we face the hardships in our lives, but face it with presence and awareness, and push it away or say, I hate this. It's like, what can I learn from this? And eventually that experience will brought into another experience, which will brought into another experience, to the point of like what I was sharing to you right in the beginning of the show is I had some pretty serious things come to me yesterday. Yet I'm like, okay, I'll just deal with that. And it was hard, but I walked through it and say, well, this is a new journey for me. And I take the fear, feel it, and then let it go. I grieve it, let it out, and then I move forward. And then all of a sudden I get another awareness, a higher consciousness about my health or about where I'm going. I don't know if that explains what you asked to me.
Well, no, I find it really interesting because what you describe is being present, facing and feeling your fear, letting it move through you, processing it. And when I think about consciousness, the first thing that comes to my mind is the ability to witness your thoughts and therefore your actions. And
Yes,
once you can witness it, now you have conscious choice.
yes. And it really does come down to choice.